Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to divide fractions. Okay, and the main part about dividing a fraction comes down to one step, which is step number 1 here in your notes. You can divide fractions by multiplying by the reciprocal, and we're going to talk about this word reciprocal in just a few minutes. Okay, and what that really means is that you're going to copy your first fraction, you're going to change the division sign to a multiplication sign, and then finally you're going to flip the numerator and the denominator of the second fraction, and you're going to multiply your numerators, multiply your denominators, convert any improper fractions to mixed numbers, and simplify. The step 2, 3, 4, and 5 is the same thing as we did yesterday in multiplying fractions. So the only new thing is this top part, step number 1. So let's talk about what reciprocal is. A reciprocal, and I'm going to open up a new page so I can show you what reciprocal is right quick. A reciprocal, all it really is, and let me write it down right quick so that you remember what we're talking about here. The reciprocal of, let's say, 1/3. The reciprocal of 1/3, all it is 3/1. So you're really just flipping the numerator and the denominator to find the reciprocal of the original fraction. So if the original fraction is, let's say, 2/5, the reciprocal would be 5/2. Okay, and let me show you why this is the case. The reciprocal really doesn't just mean you flip it. The actual math behind it is that the reciprocal is the fraction that makes the original fraction a whole number once you multiply by it. Let's look at an example. If we multiply the reciprocal of 1/3, which happens to be 3/1, times the original fraction, which is 1/3, look at what happens. The numerator times numerator is going to give me 3, and the denominator times the denominator is also going to give me 3. 3/3 is equals 1 whole. So this reciprocal here, the fraction 3/1, is the reciprocal of the original fraction 1/3, because once I multiply by it, it gives me 1 whole number. Okay, now let's look at it at this reciprocal example. We said that the reciprocal of 2/5 was going to be 5/2. Well, let's prove it. Let's see if we can multiply it and get a whole number. 2 times 5, that's going to give me 10, and 5 times 2, that's also going to give me 10. So 10/10, that's equals 1 whole. Therefore, this is the reciprocal of 2/5, and this was the reciprocal of 1/3. Now, here's in the notes, they kind of simplify it for you. They give you step by step exactly what you need to do. You need to copy your first fraction, you need to change the division sign to a multiplication sign, and then all this last bullet right here, this just means you multiply by that word right there, the reciprocal. Let's look at an example right quick. Okay, so here's my examples, and let's follow the rules that we just talked about. The first rule says that we copy the first fraction, the dividend. So my first fraction is 3. It's not a fraction. But we already talked about how to convert whole numbers into improper fractions on the last video. So the only thing I have to do is put the 3 over a 1. In other words, divide the 3 by 1 and gives me the same value. So 3/1 divided by 1/2. Okay, so I'm going to copy the first fraction, just like my notes say. So 3/1 copied, done. Okay, I got that bullet done. The next one is change the division sign to multiplication sign. So I'm going to change this division sign to a multiplication symbol. So far so good. And then I finished that one. Then the next one is flip the numerator and the denominator of the second fraction. In other words, write the reciprocal of the second fraction of the divisor. So this is what I'm going to do. The reciprocal of 1/2 is 2/1. Okay, and that's it. Now I can go ahead and follow the same steps. These steps right here are the same steps as when you multiply fractions. And if you need to know how to do that, go look at the video for multiplying fractions, because I went into a lot of detail in that video that I'm not going to go into in this video. So if something goes over your head, go ahead and go back and look at that video and watch it again. 3 times 2 is going to give me 6, and 1 times 1 is going to give me 1. And 6 divided by 1, that's just 6. So my answer is 6 to this example. Okay, let's do this one here. Copy the first fraction, change that division symbol to multiplication, and then flip the second fraction, or write the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1/4 is 4 over 1. So to finish this problem, 7 times 4 is 28, and 8 times 1 is 8. Careful, because we have an improper fraction right here. Now let me ask you a question. Can I go ahead and box this in as my final answer? I hope you said no, because this 4 and this 8, they can be simplified by 4. If I divide top and bottom by 4, the question says Miss Remy is trying to get hair bows made for her cheerleaders. She has 9/10 of a yard of red ribbon, and it takes 2/5 of a yard of this ribbon for each hair bow. How many pieces can she cut from this ribbon? Well, it's a little bit wordy, so let's go ahead and draw a picture of what this means. Okay, so right now we know that Ms. Remy is trying to get hair bows. Okay, then she needs for her cheerleaders, and we know that she has this many yards, 9/10 of a yard of red ribbon. Okay, so let me choose the red one here, and I'm gonna draw a strip. It's gonna represent my red ribbon. I know it's not very straight, but it's just the ribbon, so it's okay. Now, it takes 2/5 of a yard of this ribbon for each hair bow. So if I take 2/5 of a yard, I can make one hair bow. So I'm going to cut that, and I don't know where I'm going to cut it, but I'm just going to cut it right here. And I'm going to say that this right here that I just cut is that 2/5 of a yard. But in order for you to keep up with me, I'm going to go ahead and label the whole distance of this ribbon. We said that was 9/10 of a yard. End to end, from one side to the other, that's how long it was. Okay, and then when I cut it, every time that I cut it, this piece right here, this piece is worth 2/5 of a yard. Okay, and if I cut another one, it's going to be 2/5 of a yard here. And I might be able to cut another one, and I can do 2/5 of a yard here. Now the question is, how many times can I cut it? How many of these pieces of 2/5 of a yard can I get out of the 9/10 of a yard? So what's happening here to the ribbon is we're cutting it into equal pieces. Another word for cut is divide. So anytime that you see this keyword in a word problem that says cut, that means division. Okay, so make sure you write that down somewhere. That word cut means we have to divide. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to divide the long piece, that 9/10. I'm going to divide that by 2/5 because I need pieces that are that long. And this is going to be the problem you have to solve, and we're going to follow the same steps we did before, except that in this case the hard part was figuring out how the division was going to be set up. And when you do division problems like this, you have to be very careful to find out which number is the big number, which number is being divided by which other number. And the number that's being divided, that's called your dividend. Remember those keywords, those vocabulary words. The number that's being divided, that's always going to go first, your dividend. And then it's going to be divided by your divisor, the number that's doing the division. So here I'm cutting into 2/5, so my divisor is 2/5. Okay, and then my answer is going to be my quotient. But in order for me to find my answer, I have to follow my steps, which starts me off by saying I have to copy the first fraction. So the first fraction is just 9/10. Then I'm going to change the division symbol to multiplication. And then I'm going to write the reciprocal of 2/5. And the reciprocal of 2/5 is 5 over 2. So now all I have to do is multiply my numerators, 9 times 5, that gives me 45, and 10 times 2, that gives me 20. So my answer is 45/20ths. Again, we have another case here where we cannot circle or box in our answer because this is not the simplest form of it. I have to simplify. So if I simplify, I'm going to divide by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 20 divided by 5 is 4. And then all I have to do is bring this 2, a whole number, over to my final answer. And my final answer is 2 and 1/4. So the question says, how many pieces can she cut from the ribbon? Well, I drew my picture wrong because I couldn't get 3 pieces out. As you can see, once you work out the problem, you can only get 2 and 1/4, 2 and a little piece. So she's only going to be able to make 2 whole ribbons, and she's going to have a little piece left, which she's probably just going to throw away because you can do anything with it. So the answer to the question, how many pieces can she cut from this ribbon? Well, she can only cut 2 pieces. So the answer is 2 pieces. Not cut another one, so my answer is just 2 pieces. Okay, so be careful with that kind of problem. To divide mixed numbers, we're going to follow the same steps for dividing fractions, same steps we just looked at. But before we do those steps, we have to do step number 1. We have to convert any of the mixed numbers and whole numbers to these improper fractions. Okay, remember we do that by doing all around the world. Okay, and that's whenever you do the whole thing about like that, or when you do the popcorn, when you do something like that, or when you do that Texas. Okay, those are your 3 shortcuts. Again, if you need to remember what the shortcuts mean, what I just drew right here, go look at the multiplying fractions video. That's where I go into detail about these methods and what they mean. So make sure you go look at those. Okay, so here's an example where we have to change a mixed number into a whole number. And I'm going to do that right quickly. I'm going to give you this one example and then we'll move on. Okay, so this one here, I'm going to do my Texas, and that means I'm going to multiply 3 times 4, that's 12, plus 2 is 14, so it's 14/3. And then I'm going to divide by this other fraction here. So remember, I'm not doing my steps yet. I'm not changing anything. I'm not doing reciprocal. All I'm doing is step 1 here. I'm converting the mixed numbers to improper fractions. So I'm going to do Texas again. And 4 times 1 gives me 4, plus 3 gives me 7. 7/4. Now I can go ahead and do my steps for division, which is going to be copy the first one, change that division to multiplication, and write down the reciprocal for the other. I think you can take it from here, right? 3 times 7 gives me 21, and 14 times 4 is actually going to be 6. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And then you have to change this division to back to a mixed number. So that's it. That's how you change. That's how you divide mixed numbers. And I'll let you do that. I'll let you do this rest of the problems because I want to keep this video as close to 15 minutes as I can.